evening, everyone, and welcome to the newest episode of How I Would Have Booked WrestleMania. We are continuing on with our WrestleMania rebookings. Up next, we are going to be doing WrestleMania 24 from 2008. Now, you're probably wondering, we just skipped like three WrestleManias. Allow me to explain why. As I mentioned in the previous video, we are skipping WrestleMania 21 because I feel like there's not really much I would have changed to that card. I feel like it was pretty good the way it was. So we're gonna leave it at that. Going on to WrestleMania 22, which was live here in my hometown of Chicago. No, I did not go. Um, I actually remember I doing a fantasy booking of this particular WrestleMania, around that time, back in 2006. But I really don't remember too much, surprisingly, because I usually have a good memory when it comes to this stuff. I don't remember the entire card that I fantasy booked. I do remember a couple matches. I do know for sure the main event that I booked was Edge defending the WWE Championship against Triple H. I also remember Kurt Angle defending the world title against Undertaker. Yes, they had that match at the previous month at No Way Out, but I think I would have saved that match for WrestleMania instead of having Undertaker face Mark Henry. Another match that I also recall having had fantasy booked for this card was John Cena versus Randy Orton in a special Raw versus SmackDown match, because at that point John Cena and Randy Orton hadn't really hadn't really faced each other one on one like that. They did have a one on one match, I want to believe, at the Eddie Guerrero tribute show a few months back, if I'm not mistaken. So this was really before they even had their numerous matches with each other. So that's all I really do. Oh, I also had JBL defending the United States Championship against Rey Mysterio. Um, Maybe one of these days I'll jog my memory somehow and I remember exactly how I booked WrestleMania 22, or maybe I'll just sit down one day and just rebook it on the fly. Um, Again, we need another WrestleMania in Chicago. Yes, we don't really have too many big arenas for WrestleMania. Soldier Field will probably be the best bet, but the Chicago weather around WrestleMania season isn't usually all that great. It's really bipolar. It was freezing cold the other day. It's going to be in the 80s all week. That's Chicago weather for you. So I'm pretty sure they wouldn't want to have an outdoor WrestleMania where there's a good chance it's probably snowing. Next up was WrestleMania 23, which is another card. I'm pretty much going to leave how it is because it's another show that was actually really pretty good. And there's really not much that I can think I would have changed about it. Um, so we're gonna leave that one as it is. So with that being said, we're gonna go on to WrestleMania 24, which I did rebook. This is one of those WrestleManias I booked later on, of course, later on, years later. I think the first WrestleMania that we're gonna be booking in real time will probably be WrestleMania 30 or 31, if I'm not mistaken. We'll get to that when we get to that. So we're gonna stick with WrestleMania 24 for now. This is another show I watched live on pay-per-view at my cousin's house. My uncle was there with his brother, so excited to see the whole Floyd Mayweather thing, because of course, why not? So let's get to it. Starting off with what the WWE actually gave us on this show. On the pre-show, they had a battle royal to determine who would face Chavo Guerrero for the ECW title. Later that evening, that match was won by Kane. Think of it as a pre Andre the Giant Battle Royal, if we want to call it that. Kicking off the main show, we had two veterans, JBL and Finley, going one on one in a Belfast brawl. This was over. This was pretty much after the whole Vince McMahon illegitimate something ended up being Hornswoggle. This is pretty much two old guys just beating the hell out of each other. I think most people remember this matchup because this is the match where JBL threw a garbage can at Hornswoggle. Up next was the Money in the Bank ladder match. We had John Morrison, Carlito, my favorite wrestler CM Punk, Shelton Benjamin, Mr. Kennedy, MVP, and Chris Jericho. This match was won by CM Punk, which was a surprise to many because not many people probably predicted CM Punk to win this match. But fun fact, Jeff Hardy was originally scheduled to be not only be in this match, but he was also, per the news at the time, he was actually supposed to win the match, the Money in the Bank ladder match. But I want to say like a week or so before, he got suspended with the wellness violation, so he was taken out of the match. He dropped the Intercontinental title to Chris Jericho, so unfortunately there was no Jeff Hardy, which sucks because at this time he was at one of his peaks in popularity, and many people at this time wanted him to win the big one. And like I said, this match was unexpectedly won by CM Punk. Hey, I was fine with it because he's my favorite wrestler. Up next was a Raw versus SmackDown match between Batista and Umaga, in which Batista won. This was basically the we don't have anything else for you, so we're just gonna stick you two guys together match, and it obviously so because yeah. Up next was the outcome of the pre-show battle royal in which Chavo Guerrero defended the title, ECW title against Kane. Kane won in about 8 seconds. Now I'm gonna give you my hard take on this. The ECW title, or the WWEC title, as many people call it, during this time, the revival of ECW from 2006 to 2010, that ECW title was not a world title. I mean, it sucks to the diehard ECW fans who grew up on the original ECW. They used to come on. I used to watch sometimes at 1 o'clock in the morning on some random ass channel. Um, that was at the ECW World Title. The ECW title that was rebranded by WWE to me was more of a glorified Intercontinental Championship than anything. It was not a world title because how many off the top of your head, how many pay-per-views besides December to Dismember did the ECW title headline? How many times did that main event a pay-per-view? How many meaningful storylines was the ECW championship involved in going into WrestleMania? Oh, wait, exactly. Yeah, that they butchered what ECW used to be. It was pretty much a rookie show if you really think about it, the way they used it later on. But yeah, I think I'm sure a lot of people were excited to have the ECW title finally defended at WrestleMania. Unfortunately, it didn't go the way people probably expected because one, there was no ECW originals even in this match, and two, the match was over in about 8 seconds. So do with that as you will. Up next was Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair, and as many of you know, this was during the storyline where Ric Flair lost, he had to retire. Somehow they kept it going for a few months, and finally they got to Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. Of course, this is the whole Shawn Michaels. I'm sorry, I love you, sweet chin music. Ric Flair's career is over, and so, or so we thought, because the guy retired, came back a few months later, showed up in TNA, had a few matches after that, and from then on, bro, just retire already, bro. You're like 100 years old. You're gonna freaking die in the ring. I'm pretty sure that's probably what he literally wants to do. But yeah, if you've heard about his final match that he had a couple years back, the man died like 3 times in the ring, like literally, literally. But yeah, up next was a for all the hormonal teenagers out there was a Playboy lumberjack or lumberjill match. It featured Ashley and Maria, who were the Playboy cover girls at the time. And might I also add, Maria was one of my OG favorites during this time, during the whole Ruthless Aggression Chicago's own Maria. She was one of my personal favorites. I got her autograph poster hanging in my wall somewhere. Um, it was her and Ashley, who was another of my favorites. Rest in peace. Taking on the team of Melina and Beth Phoenix. And I think Snoop Dogg, for some reason, was, I don't know if he was a guest referee or just the commentator. I honestly don't remember. But this match was won by the heels, Melina and Beth Phoenix. I think Snoop Dogg, I don't know if he clotheslined or knocked out Santino Marella after the match, and he ended up making out with Maria. You lucky son of a bitch. So yeah. After that was a triple threat match for the WWE Championship, in which Randy Orton successfully defended against both Triple H and John Cena. Now, of course, you're probably hearing these three names in the same match. You're probably thinking, "Oh my God!" again. But if you really think about it, this was really kind of fresh at this time. We didn't have like a million matches between this combination of guys quite yet. So in a way, it was kind of relatively fresh. But we'll get into that more later of how I rebooked this. Up next was the whole Big Show versus Floyd Mayweather, which was basically a no disqualification match. If you really think about it, um, the funny thing is the WWE actually wanted Floyd Mayweather to play the babyface, but the crowd pretty much didn't have nothing to do with that. So he ended up being default heel, and the Big Show, who was supposed to be the heel in this match, ended up being the default babyface. Because yeah, some people are just born to be heels, some are born to be faces. Floyd Mayweather was not born to be a babyface. So this match ended when Floyd Mayweather knocked out the Big Show. Yeah, probably one of the best celebrity matches, at WrestleMania. It's kind of up there. And then our main event was Edge versus The Undertaker. Edge defending the world title against The Undertaker in the main event. Fun fact that I don't really think they really mentioned too much, because as you know, The Undertaker was undefeated at WrestleMania, and technically so was Edge. So I'm surprised they didn't really um sell this as streak versus streak. But I think I kind of know why, because at the previous year, Edge competed in Money in the Bank. He did not win the match. He was taken out of the match midway due to an injury. So I'm guessing that's probably why they didn't advertise this as streak versus streak, just as a simple world title match between these two. That match, of course, was won by The Undertaker via submission with the Hell's Gates, and Undertaker winning the World Championship in the main event of WrestleMania. All in all, I feel like it was a pretty decent show, pretty good show. I I enjoy outdoor WrestleManias and everything, and for some reason, the two WrestleManias that were held in this arena probably have two of the best stages, entrance stages, if you want to call them that. We'll get to the other one, once we get to that WrestleMania, I'll talk to that a bit more. But let's moving on. Let's go on to how I would have booked WrestleMania 24. Okay, so excuse me 1 second while I bring my notes. Huh? Okay, now going up how I would have done this on the pre-show. We're gonna keep the battle royal, but we're gonna, instead of just being number one contenders battle royal, we're just gonna straight up make this battle royal for the ECW title. A pre-show battle royal, I think, is probably better than a main card 8 second match. So we're gonna go with the battle royal for the ECW title as the pre-show. We're gonna still give the win to Kane, let him have his feud with Chavo Guerrero afterwards. Going on to the main card, we're gonna kick things off with the United States Championship MVP against Matt Hardy. Now, of course, Matt Hardy was out injured during this time, so he wasn't involved actually participating. He did get involved in the Money in the Bank ladder match, cost MVP the match, but he wasn't medically cleared to be, even though he probably was. They already had MVP in the ladder match. But anywho, and I usually, when I book these, I usually go off by what superstars are healthy, who's currently on the roster, not, no, well, let me bring this guy from another promotion or anything like that, or no. But Matt, of course, Matt Hardy being injured, but yet I still booked him to face MVP anyway, because one, he in a way technically was, but they already had MVP in a different match, and two, because, well, this is my booking and my rules pretty much. Yeah. So I would have had. I know they had their match a month later at Backlash, where Matt Hardy won the United States Championship. And this timeline, I would have had that match take place at WrestleMania instead. Of course, Matt Hardy still gets the win, winning his first major singles title for the first time, not including the cruiserweight title, which he won in like a few years prior. Up next, we're gonna stick with the Money in the Bank ladder match. We're gonna keep John Morrison, Shelton Benjamin, Carlito, and CM Punk in this match. And we're going to add to this match the young rookie at the time, Cody Rhodes, John Morrison's partner, The Miz, and my pick for the winner of this alternate timeline, Money in the Bank. I would have had Umaga in this match, and I would have him win the match with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I feel like he probably should have been in this match in the first place, but like I said, they gave him a random, got nothing else for you match with Batista. So where does that leave Batista? We'll get to that in a bit. Up next, we're going to keep the Playboy Lumberjack match for the hormonal teenage boys out there. We're going to keep the match, but I think I would give the win to the faces because, yeah, I'll be honest, there's going to be some biasy in these rebookings, especially when it comes to my favorite female wrestlers, as we'll see much later on. I don't want to spoil nothing, but yeah. So since Maria was my favorite at the time, of course, I'm gonna give her the win at WrestleMania. Say something. So yeah, up next, we're gonna have the Intercontinental Championship. Chris Jericho defending against Mr. Kennedy. I don't really think, as far as I remember, I don't really think these two really had a feud, or if they even had a match together. I could be wrong. This was 2008, damn near 20 years ago. I really don't remember what was going on too much during the weekly shows, but I'm pretty sure they might have, they might not. But yeah, I feel like this would have been a pretty good WrestleMania mid card match. I mean, the promos probably would have been a lot good too. So we're gonna go with Chris Jericho defending the Intercontinental title against Mr. Kennedy, and I think in this timeline I'm going to give the win to Mr. Kennedy because we're still sticking with Jeff Hardy unfortunately getting suspended. So in a way, Chris Jericho is more or less a transitional champion for that being said. So we're gonna go ahead and just have him give the belt to Mr. Kennedy, who hopefully doesn't tear his shoulder in the process like he did afterwards. Nope, sorry, scratch that. That was the year before. Never mind. Okay, so up next, we're gonna have a no disqualification match. Damn, I should have saved that for later. We're gonna have a match between Triple H and JBL. You're probably already thinking that does not even sound like a good match, considering that JBL is really not that great of a wrestler. He's more of a character than he was a good wrestler. And Triple H, well, people were, kind of on the fence with Triple H at the time. But Triple H is without a doubt one of my all-time favorites. And I don't really think Triple H had a feud with the JBL character. So, and I feel like, well, they could have kicked this little mini feud off in the Elimination Chamber prior. And then to get around the shortcuts of this match, we're going to make it a no disqualification. Triple H versus JBL. I'm going to give the win to Triple H, of course. Yeah. I mean, I think this is around the time when JBL came out of his semi-retirement he had for like a couple years, and he had like another small run for another year or so before he retired again. So yeah. And up next, we're gonna keep the Ric Flair versus Shawn Michaels match. We're gonna keep the same, like I said before, as I had mentioned before. We're gonna keep the same storyline, same match, same outcome, same angle, everything sticks the same. Hopefully, in this timeline, Ric Flair stays retired and not, you know, tries to have a match at 100 years old, pretty much as a corpse or something. But yeah. Now up next, we're gonna have the WWE Championship, but it will be Randy Orton defending against John Cena in a one-on-one match. Now again, this is the time when these two were still relatively fresh. They had their first one-on-one pay-per-view match at the prior year SummerSlam. They were supposed to have a rematch again at No Mercy the following month, but that's when John Cena tore his shoulder. He came back. So in this timeline, I'm going to give John Cena is still going to win the Royal Rumble, but instead of choosing to face Randy Orton at No Way Out, he's going to go ahead and choose to face Randy Orton at WrestleMania instead, which would leave, if anything, with the Elimination Chamber that they had number one contenders match, we could have just put Randy Orton in there to defend the WWE title. So yeah, John Cena versus Randy Orton. I'm gonna go ahead and give the win to Randy Orton. Let him retain his title. Then they can go on and have the Fatal 4-Way match they had the next month at Backlash, which involved Triple H and JBL. And then from there, the timeline continues as it did. Up next, we're gonna keep another match we're keeping is the Big Show and Floyd Mayweather thing. Same match, same outcome, everything. We're gonna give Floyd the win, so that all stays the same. Up next, for our main event, we are having a triple threat match for the World Heavyweight title. Edge defending against Undertaker and Batista. So we pretty much just switched the world title matches from one-on-one and triple threat match. Now you're probably saying, okay, they had this triple threat match a couple months prior, Armageddon. But if you really think about it, from 2007, 2008, these three were pretty much intertwined throughout that whole year. They had their triple threat feud they had spun off into facing the combination of each other one on one throughout the years. So I feel like we could have had the culmination of that at WrestleMania. Afterwards, Edge could go one on one with Undertaker the next couple months, leading to their Hell in a Cell match they had that year at SummerSlam. So in this match, we're still gonna give Undertaker the win, keeping his streak undefeated at WrestleMania and so forth. So there you go. There you have it. That is how I would have booked WrestleMania 24, or as I think they were calling it at the time, the biggest party under the sun. Or that could have been another WrestleMania Florida. I know it was one of them, one of the Florida WrestleManias. I also forgot that Kim Kardashian was the host for this show. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so that's how I would have booked WrestleMania 24. What did you think? Do you like what we got? Do you like what I gave you? What would you have done? What would you have changed? Would you have left it the same as it was? What were your thoughts on this WrestleMania? I would love to hear your opinions. Of course, you don't always have to agree with mine. Um, I'll let you hear what you think. Again, thank you for all the support. And now, oh, by the way, no more skipping WrestleManias. From here forth, we're going to be going straight through. There's no more skipping this WrestleMania, skipping this. We're going to go straight from WrestleMania 24 today up to WrestleMania this year, 42. We're also going to see how many times the WWE probably could have realistically booked Undertaker versus John Cena at WrestleMania the right way. But we'll get to that maybe on our next show. You never know. Until then, I will see you on our next WrestleMania rebooking. Remember, if you didn't ask me, I'm probably going to talk about it anyway. Thank you.